Well, joining us now is a member of the very first class of the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame back in 2004, Bud Hunnicutt, our resident historian. He came out with a book called Up on the Wheel a few years ago, and he's here to talk about a couple of the newest members of the Hall of Fame that are no longer with us, Jim McMurray and Wes Farrand. Bud, how you doing this morning?
Hey, doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Let's talk about first two members that we haven't already spoke about that will be inducted into the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame. Jim McMurray. What do you remember about Jim McMurray?
Well, Jim McMurray started driving in 1957 at the age of 27, and he raced till the late 70s, and then he became an official, racetrack official, and a flagman, and finished out his career clear up until probably about 1990. As an official there, and he lost his life in 1992. But he raced at Riverside, Lakeside, your Sedalia track, your Olympic Stadium. He built and maintained his own cars. He built an all-aluminum car, which was very unusual, an all-aluminum car in the mid-1960s, and it was a very lightweight car, but still strong, and had a lot of success with it, and it was unique, and I think the car is still around. I don't know where it's located now, but it's quite a car. It's quite a bit different, but I guess it did the job, and so it was the only all-aluminum car I ever saw, I think, in a racetrack, so that was kind of interesting.
Is the aluminum aspect of it the biggest thing that people remember about Jim McMurray?
I think that's part of it, and the main thing about Jim, he was such a smiling, happy, nice guy. Every time you saw him, he had a big smile on his face, and all the people liked him. And when he became an official, they liked him because he was very fair with people, and he got along well. He was an outgoing person, got along very well with people, and he was fun to be around.
That's always a tough transition for a lot of folks that have been racers to make that transition over officials, but he probably did it as well as anybody, right?
He really did. Yeah, he did a good job on it. He sure did.
All right, Wes Farrand will also be going into the Hall of Fame tonight. What is the biggest thing we'll remember about Wes Farrand?
Wes Farrand was one of the Kansas City's outstanding race car drivers, and did a really good job. He started out driving for a fellow named Leonard Whitty up in Atchison, Kansas, and drove for him, and they won a lot of races up around Atchison, St. Joe, Savannah, Missouri, up in that area, in Platte City. And then he came down here, started off in 1954 there, and he come down here in 55 or 56 and started driving for Elmer Lane, and driving what the old car they called the Arkansas Offie, which was a GMC six-cylinder truck motor and really flat, fast race car. And he drove that to many, many race wins with Ike Peters and Elmer Lane in their partnership. Then I think Ike Peters pulled out of the partnership, and I think he went ahead driving some more for Elmer Lane, and he actually worked some for Elmer Lane too, and I think really good one, and all those guys used to kind of got their start at Elmer Lane's garage in Kansas City. So they had a lot to do. They did a lot of machine work and a lot of things there. I think Wes had a lot of success at Olympic, Lakeside, Riverside, the Topeka Fairgrounds, to name a few. And, they say race drivers are kind of a rugged individual. And I remember this one thing about Wes that always impressed me about Wes, and knowing him, I could just see him doing this. But he injured his leg one day at work when he worked for Belger Cartage and doing heavy lifting and moving heavy equipment, and he injured his leg. And so they said, "You better go to the doctor." "No," I said, "I'll be all right. I'll go ahead and finish the day." And he went ahead and worked all day. He went home that night, and boy, his leg was giving him a fit. So finally, he got up the next morning and had so much pain, he thought, well, I better go to the doctor instead of going to work. So he went to the doctor. He called in and went to the doctor. And the doctor said, what are you in here for? You look pretty healthy. He said, well, I got some pain in my leg that just won't go away. He said, I had it all night. And so the doctor said, let's take a look here. And so the doctor did an x-ray, and he said, well, son, the reason you got that pain in your leg. He said, you have a broken leg. And he said, I bet you have a lot of pain. So anyway, he said, well, I took a couple of aspirin and it didn't help much. So anyway, they fixed him up and set his leg and put him in a cast and got him all healed up. But that's the kind of guy he was. He was a pretty rough, tough guy and a nice guy. And a very clean racer. He'd always race clean with you. If you wanted to drive rough, he could get in there with you too. I mean, he was just an all-around good race car driver.
Now, he was involved, still involved with racing pretty close up to when he passed away, was he not? Didn't he, I see a story here where he was involved even a race out here at Kansas Speedway with Shelby Howard when he won the ARCA race here about several years ago.
I think he did get involved there. In fact, he moved to Florida for about 15 years and he was working with people down there that were racing and helping them with their car setups and things like that. So he stayed active in racing for a long time. He was an over-the-road truck driver, and was his occupation, and he drove, I think, 7 years for Belgian Cartage, 7 years for International Motor, or 14 years for International Motor Freight. So he had a long career as an over-the-road truck driver, so he got around to different parts of the country and saw a lot of races around when he wasn't racing.
Your thoughts about some of the other inductees that'll be going in tonight? I know Dennis Melvin, somebody you know very well. We had him on a little bit earlier.
Dennis Melvin is, I think, I'm so glad to see Dennis going in there because he really is going to make it a better group because he's a pretty special person. And to me, he was a lot like Jerry Weld. He was always helping people with their cars and they have trouble. The guy didn't have the money to build a new motor. Why, he put something together for him where he could afford to race and still not have to spend an arm and a leg to do it. And he was always helping other people. A great engine builder as well as a race driver. And I think he went out and never been on a pavement track at the High Bank I-70 track. I think one of the first races he ever, well, it was the first race he ever ran on pavement. It may have been the first feature race he ever won. He went out there and quick timed him. It had a dirt car that had been running on dirt. Quick timed him, won the heat race, won the main event, and he said, boy, this is really fun. I don't want to drive from that dirt anymore. He said, this is a lot more fun. And anyway, he raced successfully on dirt and pavement, and he's still racing. He started in 1966, and he's still racing over at Lakeside now, and he's still very competitive. He's 63 years old now, and man, you watch him race, you wouldn't think he was 63. He gets right out there and gets after it.
He is. He's all geared up and ready to go, as he said here just a little while ago. He just seems to, as you pointed out, helping other people. He seems to get about as much enjoyment helping other racers out as he does working on his own cars.
Well, he and Cliff Lawrence were really, really close friends.
Yeah.
And Cliff Lawrence was one of the best guys ever raced around here, and they were very good friends. And yeah, I'm sure he misses Cliff Lawrence a lot because Cliff died here a couple of years ago, and we all miss him because he was a special guy. And they were real close friends. And so but I'm sure glad to see Dennis get in there because he's a heck of an engine builder. He built some really outstanding motors, and they stay together. And a lot of guys won their races running Dennis Melvin motors. So.
Yeah. Looking forward to tonight. Always fun to get together with all the Hall of Famers. What's your thoughts about the big banquet tonight?
Looking forward to it, and it seems like it has grown a little each year. I think it's going to be a pretty special deal there.
Bud, thanks a lot for checking in. Look forward to seeing you up at the banquet.
Yes, sir. I'll be looking forward to you, and tell everybody hello.
That is Bud Hunnicutt himself, inducted into the very first C.A.R.B Hall of Fame class in 2004. There's one other member of tonight's Hall of Fame that we haven't already talked about is Ricky Weld, member of the famous Weld family. Unfortunately, he passed away due to cancer here several years ago, but drove sprint cars at Knoxville and many racetracks and won numerous feature events. And Ricky Weld, the 8th member of the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame class to be inducted tonight. And again, the induction ceremony at 4 o'clock at the Gladstone Community Center. Hope to see you up there. Don't forget the Lucas Oil ASCS Sprint Car Dirt Series Night 2 at Canyon Speedway Park tonight at 8 o'clock right here on RacinBoys. And we appreciate you tuning in. Thanks to McCarthy Chevrolet for sponsoring Track Talk exclusively here on hour number 2 on RacinBoys. We'll look forward to doing it again next Saturday morning from our partner Scott Traylor. I'm Kirk Elliott. Have a great rest of the weekend. We'll see you next Saturday.